So let's get back at it here with 6-5 and let's look at problem number 1. Main objective here on problem number 1 is we're going to be able to solve some square root expressions, and then later on in some of the other problem sets we're going to be looking at non-square root problems and how we go about solving those ones. So problem number 1 right here, let's look at this one. Let's go through this one here together. What is the solution of 3 plus the square root of 2x minus 3 equals 8? What do you think our very first thing do you think we're going to do here? You got it, you got it, you got it. To solve, we need to isolate that radical first. And you see where that radical is. It's that square root of 2x minus 3. We need to isolate that first. So notice the first step that they did not write in here, and I'll go ahead and write that in there. They subtracted 3 from both sides. So if you subtract that 3, that's outside that square root on the left side of the equation. That's why that 8 turns into a 5. Now, to isolate the 2x minus 3, in other words, to undo a square root, the inverse operation of a square root would be squaring. So that's why we square each one of those two sides. And when we square each one of those sides, on the left side, we end up with just simply 2x minus 3. One thing to note here, please note this. Do you notice that 2x and that minus 3, neither one of those changed? Okay? It would be like it'd be like the equivalent of me, oops, let me undo that here. It'd be like me asking you this, take the square root of 5 and then square it, and then you trying to tell me the answer is 25. That doesn't make a lot of sense now, does it? No, the answer would just be 5, right? The answer is left unchanged because the square root of 5 would be that decimal that's 2 and some change, and then you take that decimal that's 2 and some change and square it, you go right back to where you started with. So that radicand, I think that's what that word is. That radicand right there is left unchanged right there. Right? Right. So then after they square both sides, they end up getting the 25 on the other side. Now it just becomes a simple two-step algebra problem, right? Don't we have to add 3 to both sides, which is what they do, and then divide both sides by 2. And so then they get their final answer there of 14. Now what's important to do with square root equations in all of these problems? It's very important, and you're going to see this later on in some of the other videos that we're doing. It's so important to check your answers because occasionally when we take radicals and roots of problems, we end up getting too many correct answers, and we end up getting extraneous solutions, and I'll talk about that later. So if we take this 14, the only answer that we got, and we substitute right there to check our work, or if we went right back up here and checked our work, let's check it. 2 times 14, wouldn't that be 28? 28 minus 3 would give us 25. Square root of 25 would be 5. 3 plus 5 gives us 8. So yes, this answer does work. Okay, so now it's your turn. Now, my young Padawans, let's make sure that we put our good practice to use here and realize to solve this problem first, make sure that you have isolated the radical, and then deal with that radical by doing the inverse operation. So we'll go ahead and pause this one. Give yourselves a couple of minutes to work here. Once you feel like once you feel like you've had enough time, or the students have enough time, go ahead and replay this, restart the video, so that way the students can check their work. Alright, so how'd you do? First step, to isolate the radical. See how that minus 5 is not underneath that square root? So that needs to be your first step, right? So let's see here. Let's see, eventually we should get that going on here. Where is that? There we go. So there's our plus 5. Add that plus 5 to both sides. So now that we're here, square root of 4x plus 1 should be equal to a 5. Now what happens next? If we didn't make it this far. Now that we have, now that we've isolated that square root, now it is time to square both sides. When you square both sides, the 4x plus 1 is left unchanged because we undo the square root, but that 5 gets squared and becomes 25. So then we subtract the 1 from both sides, and then we divide by 4, and we get our answer of 6. Don't forget, we would really want to check our solution here. So to check our solution, substitute that 6 back into that equation. So 4 times 6 plus 1 first, and then we'll subtract 5, and hopefully we get 0. So 4 times 6 gives us 24. 24 plus 1 gives us 25. The square root of 25 would give us 5, and 5 minus 5 indeed is 0. So we did it. We did it. We did it. Yeah, lo hicimos. Okay, so go ahead and move on to the next video, or if you wanted some time to work on some homework problems in problem number 1 and just get that under your belt and then worry about problem number 2 in a couple minutes, that's great too. Either way works just fine with me. Okay, have at it.